Let's dive in. All right, welcome. Two quick ways to get laughs in your next presentation. Hey, this is Darren LaCroix. If you've ever heard me speak, if you know part of my story, you know the story of me. Very first time after hearing the Brian Tracy quote, walking into a comedy club for the first time, building up all the courage I can to bridge the gap and talk to the headliner and ask him for advice. I said, "Hi, my name is Darren. I want to try this. What do I need to do?" And he said, "Are you funny?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Good." I'm like, good? What do you mean good? Well, the gentleman that night, his name is Chris McGuire. He has been a mentor, one of the great guys in Boston comedy, went on to huge things. And just to give you a few of them, he was a head writer for Arsenio Hall, 158 shows. That's super cool. And I can't imagine dealing with writers and egos and personalities, and you're the boss of all that. That's crazy. So Chris has also been the head writer on a lot of comedy roasts, the Justin Bieber roast. And I love, Chris, the stories you've been telling me behind the scenes of how you helped Martha Stewart to be funny. That's brilliant. And he's also produced and was the head writer on the Martha Stewart Snoop Dogg show. I mean, again, talk about how did you do it? Well, thanks for being here, Chris. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my friend, my brother, comedy writer, Chris McGuire. Welcome.
Hey, Darren, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
After you tell that story, you bring me back to performing at the Worcester Aku Aku Polynesian restaurant.
Yep, Dick Darty's Comedy Hut. Nice. Well, hey, what I thought we would do this time is, for those of you watching this, I know a few of you are already coming to our event, which is in a couple weeks in Vegas. We just allowed virtual, so if you want to check it out virtually. So I thought we'd do a little preview here, but rock solid content. Two things. This is right out of the humor camp. And what I love is some of you have been to the humor camp before, it's now going to be different, better, faster, stronger. With Chris involved, because he's bringing a whole new dynamic. We were talking about some of the ideas he has in terms of how sometimes, Chris, you said that you have to take late night show hosts who are tired and exhausted. How do you make them funny? Like, I never even thought that was a challenge, but of course, every night they got that pressure of being funny.
Yeah, pretty much every for a host on a late night show, I worked on George Lopez's talk show and Arsenio Hall's talk show. And from the moment they arrive in their car to the moment they get back in their car at the end of the day, pretty much every moment is accounted for in an extremely busy schedule. And there are days where they're human like everybody else, and there are days when they're tired and you have to do things to make the lifts easier sometimes.
And so we have a lot of people here who are most of them, for as far as I know, are speakers. A lot of them are experienced speakers, but that humor thing seems to be that thing that eludes us all. So if you're trying to get more laughs without insights from somebody who's been there and done that, from a humor coach, that can be like going to IKEA, assembling a brand new piece of furniture without looking at the directions, and then wonder why there's a few pieces left over. Why did I not get the laughs? And that's what I want to dive into. So a little metaphor here, like there's a bracket left over. By the way, bracket, if you're playing along, funny word. Great to have a punchline, having a funny word. It's because and for those of you know me talking about Dave Fitzgerald, Chris knew Dave Fitzgerald, and Fitzy is the one who beat into me funny words. Always have a punchline with a funny word whenever you can do that. So real quick, why learn humor? Here's just a list of the reasons. It's a little bit of work, it's effort, but here's what's cool. If you're already out there presenting, you can use a lot of the same humor again and again and again, especially if you have the same subject or the same audience. And at the live event, Chris has a great way of talking about the room in the moment and having that instant connection. And that will change obviously every time. But look, you're going to get rehired if you're funnier. You're going to build your list more. You're going to have more fun, more influence. You get a competitive edge. Your demo video, people want funny in the demo video. I know Jennifer Lear, who books me, by the way, Chris, I just talked to her yesterday. She's signing up and she's coming to our event, and she's the woman who books me. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to her. Gain agreement, higher fees. What's cool, Chris and I were talking about this beforehand. What's super cool is the fact that you don't have the pressure of being a comedian where you have to get laughs again and again and again right away. Chris, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, it's something that I always tell people not to get intimidated by, because a stand-up comic is expected to, have 4 punchlines a minute or 3 or 4 punchlines a minute. It's just joke, 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 joke. But if you're talking about something important that your audience is there to listen to and whatnot, this is really seasoning, so a little bit will go a long way. And so it's a lot simpler, I think, than some people think it'll be.
Yeah. But it's seemingly almost impossible to people who haven't learned the formulas, applied the formulas, realized the formulas are there. So in terms of, there was this guy, Chris, I don't think you know this story. He worked with me at Bose, and he worked in the cubicle next to me, and he looked like the guy, who was the fisherman in Jaws?
Oh, Robert Shaw.
He looked like him and talked like him. Yeah, that was his character. But I asked him once, I said, how do you work half the hours that I do and you sell twice as much as everyone else? And I said, what's your secret? And he said, the days that I don't make people laugh are the same days I don't sell much either. And what he's talking about here is connection. Like, you've got to connect. You can't make the sale until you're connected. So he didn't try to sell. He tried to connect, and he used humor to do that. And then last quote, I love this, by Jeffrey Gitomer, sales guru. He said, the end of laughter is the height of listening. The end of laughter is the height of listening for us as speakers and presenters. Once we get that big laugh, that's when we slide our message in. So Chris, quick thoughts before we dive in.
No, that all sounds, super important. I know that part of my job over the years has been to present material to talent, whether it was like every day on Arsenio's show or every day on George Lopez's show, we would, have to present them the pile of jokes or the bits or the comedy that we were planning on doing that day. And, not everything's a gem. So, you're playing a numbers game, and, but it is important, again, to make that connection with them. What is the concern that they have at the top of the day? The concern is, do I have a show? And so your job is to convince them when you walk out of the meeting that they're going to be okay and that they're in good hands.
That's pressure.
But it isn't. I mean, with like what I always said, also connecting is finding your way in is the big thing. For me, when I was the executive producer on the Martha and Snoop Dogg cooking talk show, I had to present to them twice a day because we shot 2 shows a day. And I knew that Snoop in general is a pretty easy laugh. And I knew if I could make him laugh a few times in the 30 minutes that I would have to present the material, that I'd be okay. Oh, you're muted.
If you don't mind, at the end, I'd love to have you just tell what, if you're willing to share about how you made Martha Stewart funny, because it's brilliant. All right. So one of the quick ways. So this is about 2 quick ways to get laughs in your very next presentation. One of the principles that we like to teach is the rule of three. So this is a standard comedy formula, the rule of three. So obviously it says page 21 in your guide. This is from the humor camp. You don't have a guide, but I think you'll get this. So if you can put a list in the chat, put a list, any list of 3 things that you can think of that are cliche, that are out there. Eat, drink, be merry. Trains, planes, and automobiles. Eat, pray, and love. So if you could pop in the chat anything you can think of that has the 3 to it that we're known. And this is what we say is in the setup. It's in the minds of the beholder already. Beginning, middle, end. Jury, Louie, and Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie, but it would be funny if it was jury.
Appetizer, main dish, dessert. Lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my. Nice. Judy had the same thought. Sweet. So again, we're walking you through a process that comedians do that you're not aware of that helps them get a little laugh and brings levity. And especially if we can find ones that are connected to your specific topic. That's what's best. That means you can use them over and over again. All right. Manny, Mo, and Jack. So step 1 is creating this list. And for all of you, please add these 3 to your list. But the longer you make your list, the easier it's going to be on what you can tie into your topic. And I have a few examples that were written by some of our presenters at the Humor Bootcamp. So step 1, anything else on step 1, Chris?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So anything else on step 1 before I...
That's good. You could also, I mean, obviously you have like these things that are familiar because everybody knows these things. Eat, drink, and be merry. Everybody knows these sayings. And you're setting up a level of expectation so that when you make the switch on the last one, that it's a surprise to the people you're talking to. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a saying. It could be a list of things based on your topic. The first 2 are going to be truthful and somewhat mundane. And the third one is going to be an exaggeration.
Yeah. And so, Chris, not even using ChatGPT, where that's a whole other subject. If I just literally use Google for the first part of this, I just put in list of 3s and this gave me this list. So there's ways to use technology to help increase the writing and expand the creativity of what you're doing. So I'll pop these in the chat. Feel free to keep them and use them for your subject as well. So step 1 is create this list. And step 2 is to now take the third one, the third idea, and actually twist it. So what is the expectation? And then change the expectation. So planes, trains, and 95 masks. So you're taking the standard cliche idea of what's in people's minds and you're replacing it with an exaggeration. So that's what tricks the mind. We think we're going to say automobiles, but we actually say something else. If it can be related to your subject, even better. If it can be related to this specific audience, that's tenfold even better. So to what we're trying to do is the setup, the first 2 words, create the expectation of the third word, but instead we have the punchline where we change direction. So in this case, the N95 mask. Chris, your thoughts?
Oh, it's good. All of those are like, can you go back to the to your rule of 3s? With the eat, pray, love, that thing. Yeah, that slide. Yeah, like right there. Like again, if you're talking about if you're giving a presentation on throwing an event, how to do a memorable event or a fun event. The first one could be there are 3 things you need to know about running an event. It could be eat, drink, and drink a lot more, or eat, pray, and make sure there's plenty of make sure there's an open bar, like something like that. So any of those things can work. You can use any of those things for your for whatever the topic of your speech is, just by doing that switch on the end.
Yeah. So for everyone here, what did you come up with? So seeing the list, does anyone have any ideas? Let's put the third one in all caps. So it's kind of eat, drink, and cry yourself to sleep. Nice. The man, the myth, and the legend. I'm playing with this one for a presentation. The man, the myth, and also if you can tie in again to the frustrations of the audience, that's best. The frustrations of your topic, that's all. Eat, drink, and fall down.
Yeah.
Nice. Eat, drink, and roll over.
Mm-hmm.
And let me give you so you can see how this can work. Now, obviously, this is a quick 50-minute training, humor training. In the humor boot camp, we're going to take more time and go deeper, but I want to see that this is attainable to build your belief. So at the humor boot camp, this is Chris, I don't think you've seen this, but these are some examples. Mark Stiving, who is a pricing guru, he said good, better, and ridiculously expensive. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of profit. Malcolm Saunders, who is a health expert, I loved his 3 basic food needs: food, clothing, and chocolate. Sizes of soda pop: small, medium, and bust out the insulin. Love that. Focus on the gym: strength, cardio, and the hot trainer and yoga pants. So you can see these are written by our boot campers. We're giving them the process. So I wanted you to see how they could actually tie into your subject, that you can use them again and again. It could be on your webpage as well. Could be part of your demo.
Yeah, like the premises here are really helpful, where you're just like, okay, what's the premise of the thing I'm trying to, communicate? So, and these could all be like subtopics of your main topic. So like the one, persuasive salesperson, charismatic, confident, a strong mouthwash. Great. Partying in Las Vegas, you need money, attitude, and attorney. Terrific. That's a great one just for, we're going to be in Vegas when we do this thing. If you're speaking in Las Vegas, it's really great to have a line like that, early in your set, because you're connecting with a group of people that are all in the same place. You all have the same thing in common at that moment. You're all in Las Vegas.
And by the way, last one, Tamia Dow was a pastor, or is a pastor. Peace, love, and murder. Planes, trains, and unicorns. So does this make sense? Can everyone see the value in this? This is something simple that you can use, and you could, thank you for the thumbs up there, that you can use in your very next presentation. Eat, drink, and be a designated driver.
Yep. These are great. Eat, drink, and repeat. These are great. Prepare, practice.
You want to share the taking the rule of 3 and the twist in your direction.
Yep.
Planes, trains, and stealth bombers. Nice.
Do we break out, do you want to talk about like how to do something a little more, slightly more complicated, but not really once you break it all down?
Yeah, that one that you and I looked at beforehand, your rule of 3.
Okay, great.
Start with the rule of 3, and then we'll switch to the other subject of comparisons.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, let's say we are Microsoft Word document. Okay, let's say we are talking about remote work. So this is just an example. It's something pretty much everybody has something, everybody has some experience with. Everybody knows all the pluses and minuses of working remotely. So if you were doing a speech on remote work, you might have some point of it, which is what's the great thing about working over, say, Zoom. Okay. So you'd start by creating a regular list of the best things about working on Zoom and just start brainstorming on this stuff. So this will be your setup. The best things about working on Zoom are saves time, you're in your own house, you have less interruptions, there's maybe less meetings if you're working on Zoom, shorter days, shorter commutes, you get to see their colleagues in their own environments, you don't need to have a large conference room to have a meeting with a lot of people. You can have virtual backgrounds to express your individuality, and you've got chat and messaging. So these are all pretty much the straight things about working on Zoom. Do you have anything else you want to add to that, Darren, or is anybody else? I don't know if I can.
Anything else from anyone online? Something, because again, we start with the logical. This helps set up the change of direction. So what else, when you think of Zoom meetings, the best thing about working on Zoom? How about shorter commute, shorter days?
Here we go.
How about
better work-life balance? That's a good one. Wardrobe is casual. Now that's a great one. That is more of a punchline, but that's great. You would put that in your second list. You don't have to shower. Again, great. Those are terrific ones. Put them in anything that feels funny to you, throw in that second list, which we'll go over next, which are exaggerate. The kitchen is closed. Only one person can talk at a time. That's great. So let's take a look at the next step, which is your exaggerated list. Now we're already going there because you're thinking about all the things that we all joke about when we are working on Zoom. So the commute is from your bedroom. You have time to take longer naps or naps at all. Less pants. Don't have to wear shoes or work clothes. You could have liquor in your coffee cup. Or who the cat people are that you work with. Now you know what's the weird obsession with action figures because you can see it in the background. Easy to know who the least people are when they badmouth the boss in the public chat. You know who skimped on their Wi-Fi. In a real meeting, you can't just mute your audio when you have to pass gas. And you get to see what your boss looks like when his face frees up mid-sentence. So these are the exaggerated ones. These are the ones where you're like, okay, this feels like a laugh. And you'll get a laugh if you pair this last one with the ones from your straight list, from your setup list. So based on these lists, here's just some jokes. Not all of them are gems, like I always say, but I got one or two that I like in here. Best thing about working from Zoom, and you start with 2 from your setup list, and then 1 from your exaggerated list. Best thing of working on Zoom is shorter days, shorter commute, and wearing short pants. Here, this one's not even a 3, but it's just exactly what someone here already pitched. Best thing about working on Zoom is pants aren't mandatory. Best thing about working on Zoom is short days, short commutes, and long naps. Now, again, there's one where you're using something like a word, and then the punchline has an opposite to it. So you're going short to long. Best things about working on Zoom. You don't need to have a large conference room to have a meeting with a lot of people. You get to see your colleagues in their own environments. And now you know for sure who the weird cat people are. So that's the punchline on the end. Zoom meetings are better than in-person meetings. It's harder for people to talk over each other. Somebody mentioned that. It's easier to hear each other. In a real meeting, you can't just mute your audio when you have to pass gas. And in that way, I use that one. I changed the setup to be Zoom meetings are better than in-person meetings, rather than the best things about working on Zoom. Those are things that you'll do. You change the setup to serve your punchline. Zoom meetings are better than in-person meetings. Saves time on commuting, you work shorter days, and you finally get to see what your boss's face looks like when he freezes up mid-sentence. So that's literally, you've got out of that short list that we just did right there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jokes. And not all gems, but I always go for volume. So my thing is always like, write 20 to get 1.
Sweet. And that's one of the things that I realized most presenters, when I came from stand-up into Toastmasters and speaking, I realized that most people gave up on jokes too soon, or they'd try one or two and then they'd give up and start over. When what I want people to understand truly is what you're saying, Chris. Sometimes you got to write 20 jokes in order to get one or two good ones, but the audience isn't going to see the other 19. You get that one good one that works all the time. You get to use that again and again and again.
And this is true of professional writers. Is when I'm managing a writer's room and we're trying to build a monologue, everybody gives me a page and a half of jokes in an hour or whatever, and out of those, let's say I have 4 people working on that. I've got 5 whatever pages of jokes. I'm only trying to get maybe 5-7 jokes out of it. Like, it's all the volume game.
And just curious, Chris, out of like how long is a normal monologue on late night TV? 5 minutes or?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 4.5, 5 minutes. Depends on the host. Some people like to do, Jay Leno was famous for doing extremely long monologues. George Lopez liked to do a nice long monologue, a 10-minute monologue. Arsenio was more of he liked about 5 great jokes.
And how many on your team of writers did you have just on average? So you had 5 people writing, 3 people writing?
It really depends. It really depends on the show. You usually start off with pretty lean staff, and it's success they give you more folks. But, on a show like the Comedy Central roasts, I'd have, 8 to 10 writers, and they would turn out 100 plus jokes a day. And, I always used to say about that show that the Wastebasket was funnier than any show in town.
Love it. And Laura, I see you have your hand up. By the way, Trish says, I liked Arsenio best. There is no, Dr. Claire, there is no handout for this. This is just some down and dirty, deep content that you guys could use quickly. And this is right out of the humor boot camp. So Laura, if you got no problem. That was your mistake. Ba-dum-bum. Nice. That's a problem, Chris, once I got a sound machine.
I know, it's just like a friggin' morning.
And then I have the problem that I overuse it. So, love me for who I am. So any questions about the rule of 3? Because this is one of the ones, and one of the famous jokes that I wrote that has resonated for years is when I talked about walking into my very first Toastmaster club. I said I was nervous, I was scared. I walked into my very first Toastmaster club. Now keep in mind, I've been doing stand-up comedy, so I came from the comedy world. But when I walked into Toastmasters, I noticed they were very different. They were warm, encouraging, and sober.
Yes.
So the sober was the exaggerated. So what we're saying on these rule of 3s is to create a list of logical and then create a list of exaggerated, and we look for the best 2 logical that create the expectation of a third logical. But instead, that's when we do the twist, and that's when we exaggerate it.
It also helps, and we'll be talking about comparison jokes in a minute, but it also helps to take whatever your topic is and think about what the opposite of that is. It will help you fill out that list. So in the case of Zoom meetings, the opposite is an in-person meeting. It'll help you in your head to say okay, what wouldn't happen? It's what I call the not, N-O-T, which is what wouldn't happen on a Zoom meeting compared to an in-person meeting.
Yeah, I love the comparison stuff, and I love the fact that, so let me ask the audience this. So type your answer in the chat. Do you think funny people think differently? So do you think funny people think differently, process differently? Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Lots of yeses. So Chris, this is one of the things that I teach is I say that if funny people think differently, if we agree on that premise, then wouldn't it make sense that if we want to be funny, we have to think the way funny people think. And what this process is, what the process we just walked through, what we're going to go even more deeply into at the Humor Bootcamp for 2 days, is to walk people through the processes that comedians go through all the time. The work that you don't see that makes the stage. That you just see the ones that worked when you see somebody's HBO special. And I guess I'm dating myself with HBO special, Netflix special.
They still do them every now and then. But yeah, for sure. I mean, just again, guys, don't beat yourselves up. I mean, the best comics go out with new material to not a lot of laughs, at first. And I'm not talking about even when they're coming up, because obviously that happens. But when they're working on a new special, they may throw out everything that they've done, and then they're starting from scratch. And, some of the biggest names in comedy go up, and when they're starting that process, it's painful. It's painful for them, and they're getting by on their charm, and they're working out stuff on their feet.
Yeah, and
failure is into the process.
Yeah, one of the things I recommend, I don't know if it's still anywhere, but Jerry Seinfeld's documentary Comedian, where he took all of his material that worked, threw it away, and started over. And now you see him bombing in a comedy club. And typical thinking is, well, he's funny. He's Jerry Seinfeld. Well, not without his jokes that work, that are tried and true, that were massaged, that were tweaked, that were changed, that were added punchier words, funnier words. So you don't see that part of the process. So that's why we say, we honestly believe everyone can create some jokes and humor. The added benefit for you as a presenter is you're not expected to have a punchline every 12 seconds. You get the idea that you're up against boring other speakers. So a little bit of levity helps lift you ahead of them, above them, and gets you more likely to get booked, referred, sell books in the back of the room, all that. So that being said, so Chris, let's jump over to your other favorite, which I love, is comparison jokes.
Let's share this. All right, this one I'm going to be bouncing around between some different programs. Okay, there we go. All right. So here we are. I wonder if I just should. It might be easier for me to just share my desktop. Hold on a second. Let me try that so I don't have to. Okay, let's see.
So while he's doing that, what we're going to talk about now is comparison jokes.
Oh, got it. So right now, just make sure, Darren, can you see Microsoft Word? Can you see Discord?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let's start over here. Comparison joke. First of all, I think in a presentation, like when I work in late night, almost always I pitch, and particularly for people who aren't necessarily stand-up comics, is using imagery, using a funny video, because it can carry weight for you, because an image can be funny. It's the whole a picture's worth 1,000 words, situation. So it's right here. I'm going to talk a bit about using images in your speech, in your presentations, and using them with a comparison joke format. So, first of all, why use images? It breaks up all the talking. It's another way to surprise the audience. Comparison jokes are really one of the easiest way to add humor. An example structure is you're comparing one thing. So in the example that I did with,
hey, Chris.
Yep.
Can you make the font bigger or zoom in a little bit, or zoom to 100%?
Let's try that. Nope. I went the other way. Sorry. Here we go. How about 200? There we go. Okay. Is that better?
Cool. Thank you.
Guys, sorry about that. I should have done a keynote, but
all good.
I did next time. So the structure is basically a refillable formula. So in the case of before, when we were talking about Zoom, I also used a comparison formula for the structure of rule of threes, where I was comparing a Zoom meeting to a in-person meeting. So, but let's take another way at it. In this one, this is a very general one, is for a comparison is what somebody hopes will happen versus the reality of what might happen. Okay, so pick a topic in your speech and make a list of things that your audience hopes or wants to happen, and then a list of things that might really happen to your audience. Now, I like to talk about team building because that's mostly what I do. I work with teams of people. A lot of times they are pretty scrappy. Not necessarily comedy writers aren't known for being super professional. They're known for chaos, for things like that. And sometimes that's great. And sometimes it's a management nightmare. So let's say we're talking about team building. All right. So you might want to compare your ideal team, the one that you would love to have, with the team you might end up with, the reality. Okay, so the setup image, so we're going to use 2 images to do this. The setup image is easy. It's a professional team. Okay, so I'm going to use, you could do this with clip art. You could do this with stock images. I'm finding that the AI art generators are really good at stuff like this and give you much more specific images. And sometimes you could hit gold and you find what you need in 5 minutes, as opposed to going through maybe 30 minutes on a stock website with a million different photos. So Midjourney,
then it becomes yours. You're using stock photos. You either got to pay for it or it becomes cliche. Anyone else can use the same one. Chris,
Absolutely.
I'll just pipe in the chat. So what are some of the AI that you might recommend for images?
I've been using Midjourney. There's also Stable Diffusion is another very popular one, but Midjourney seems to be the one that everybody's talking about. There's also DALL-E, which is part of like Microsoft Bing, and they all kind of do the same thing. And I feel like Midjourney is probably the best one, in my opinion.
Right.
So basically, you interface with Midjourney through a program called Discord, which is basically a giant chat system that gamers use. So every Midjourney prompt looks like this. Imagine whatever your subject is, and then your style. Sometimes you could just say, imagine your subject, and it'll spit something out. So the setup image is going to be simple. It's going to be a professional team, because I want to compare my ideal team to what your audience's ideal team, to the team you might end up with. So I've already got a prompt set up. So I will copy my prompt in Discord here. Imagine, will that let me do that? Maybe it won't let me do that. All right, I might have to type it in. Sorry, let me move this down so I can read it. Imagine a bunch of professional business people of various races, because I don't know if Midjourney will just spit out a bunch of white people. I have no idea. So I'm going to just try that. And I want it to look realistic, because this is what you would like to see. Okay. You hit, whoops. Sorry, I just already screwed up. Sorry about that, Darren. 1 second. Just, there you go. Okay, so this will take about a minute, not a minute, about 30 seconds, hopefully, to generate. And it'll generate basically 4 options for us with each prompt. So like, for example, I did something here about a map, and it generated 4 images for me that I could choose from. So let's go down and see if we have anything. You can actually see it generating the photos as you see here. Right now, that's about 30% done, 46. Now I can show you what the finished thing is, but I want you guys to experience that this is kind of how Midjourney works. Usually it takes between 30 seconds and a minute to generate your options. Okay, these look pretty good, right? So let's say I like the one up here, this one right here. I'll now upscale it. And there's my photo. There's my image, which I can now download to my download files. Now I've got that image. So now let's talk about the punchline. So for the punchline, let's go back, and now is a little bit of writing. So for the punchline image, brainstorm some exaggerations of what the opposite, what's the team that your audience would be like, walk in the room and go, holy crap, what is this? All right. So I've got a couple of ideas here. People not paying attention, people who love chaos, a group of children, a bunch of frat boys, a bunch of Vikings working on a laptop, a bunch of pirates. So let's try this one, which is, imagine a group of people in a conference room throwing things at each other. Funny. Okay. Funny is if you give it a mood, Midjourney will give you something close to what you're looking for. So a group of people in a conference room throwing things at each other. Funny. Okay. And now Midjourney will do that. Now, I may go, you know what might be funnier than that? How about imagine a group of pirates, funny cartoon. So now I've got two jobs going right now.
Chris, wondering, do you ever take that same picture and just say, take those same people and put them in a conference room throwing things?
Sure, absolutely. Well, that I will say one of the limitations of Midjourney is, and it's getting better, is that when you generate like all the people here, it's very difficult to take all it. Right now, it's not able to take those people.
Gotcha.
Turn them into something else, which is why.
Just curious.
Yep. No problem. Okay, so we've got a group of people in a conference room, right? So here is absolute chaos here. And you could upscale all of them if you want. So let's just upscale 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So here's the first one. That's pretty good. There's your, that's a nightmare team.
Yep.
Right. Here's another one. That doesn't look like a team I'd want to manage. Here's another one. I think there were some other ones that were better. This one's pretty good. But just basically you get the idea. I'm going for showing a chaotic team. Mm-hmm. Now let's go to the pirates. This one's okay. I feel like, let's say I'm like, this one's probably my favorite, that your team is up here, and I'll upscale too. But I may want to just redo it. Or I could say a group of pirates, funny, huddled around a laptop computer. Cartoon. Now I could also do realistic, but let's just try cartoon. Okay, so now what I'm doing is calling re-rolling. I'm re-rolling this prompt and modifying it a little bit. So while that's going, here we go. Here is the one that we had, I thought was all right. And over here, we have it re-rolling. And you can mess with different styles. You could say realistic. You could say cinematic, like it would look in a movie. There's, literally dozens of styles that this, AI knows how to do. Okay, so this might be kind of fun. I'm seeing it kind of come together here. Here's a group of pirates around a laptop computer. Maybe that's the one I decide I want. There we go. So the idea here is you would have your speaking copy, which would be, let's save this one. All right, let me go to my downloads. Okay, here you go. So the speaking copy, what you might say is something like, you always hope your team will look like this. Professional, willing to help, experienced, hardworking. This is the team I wanted, but on one project, this was the team I got. Boom. Very, very simple. Just using two images that are
contrasted. Nice. And if you preferred, and again, this is also your sense of humor. So if the pirates were funnier to you, you'd be better selling that. If the team in chaos, if that was more your style or you thought that was funnier, just like a joke, if you feel it's funnier, it's going to go better because you're going to believe in it more. Critical.
Yeah. You would say, you know, but on one project, this was the team I got. Boom. And you're, it's down here. There we go. This is the team I got.
And Chris, you could even tie all three of them together by saying, this is a team that I got. So I asked HR for people who were more whatever, or more focused on, and set up the pirate joke. Or you could go from pirates to the chaos.
Yep.
So make it a threefer.
Yep. Absolutely. You can kind of keep it going for as long. It's always good. That's what's called a tag. So adding another image is just another way, is another way to get another laugh. You've already done the setup. It's free.
Yep. So for those of you, if you're not familiar with the idea of tag, join us and we're going to take you through in the humor boot camp. On my ouch speech, I said I took a $60,000 debt in just 6 short months. I doubled that debt. Punchline. In fact, I turned it in Subway into a nonprofit organization. Tagline. So a tagline is a punchline on a punchline. Sweet. Questions on that? I love, Chris, that you gave us the narrative to verbalize. And I hope as you're watching this, you can realize, ooh, I could do that with my subject. Ooh, I could do that with my next audience. And Midjourney and Chris, what could you put in the chat with the names of the other AI that you recommend or use? I put in the.
Yep, I got it. Midjourney.
Midjourney, but okay, cool. Stable Diffusion.
Fusion and DALL-E.
DALL-E, DALL-E. DALL-E. Sweet.
If you just Google AI art generators, you'll get this list. I mean, another thing you can do is, before, like, let's say I just wanted to generate, let me try something else here. Let's say I wanted to generate a prompt, but I didn't know how to do it. Okay, so let me go back here. I could go to an AI. I would recommend Google Bard for this because it's still being trained as opposed to ChatGPT, which is brain dead after 2021. But you could say, give me a Midjourney prompt for a funny group of pirates in a conference room huddled around a laptop. This might be it might just spit this back at me, but sometimes it's helped. Oh, shoot. Sorry, let me do that again. Make sure you prompt. Let's try that again. Here's a funny Midjourney prompt for a group of pirates in a conference room huddled around a laptop. Let's see what happens.
Oh, cool.
Yep. Let's go back here.
Real life live humor creation. You're in the writer's room right now.
All right, so let's see what happens. So basically the AI just told me to type in a group of pirates are huddled around a laptop in a conference room trying to figure out how to use the internet. They're all confused and frustrated and keep making clicking noises on the keyboard. Suddenly one of the pirates shouts, "Avast, I've got it." He starts typing furiously as soon as he has figured out how to open a web browser. The other pirates are amazed and start cheering. They quickly start browsing the internet and they're soon laughing and have a good time. That one is there's a lot that Midjourney won't be able to do. That's a lot of garbage, but here's some simple ones down here. Trying to figure out how to buy a new ship online. Group of pirates are in a conference room trying to find a treasure map on Google Maps. A group of pirates are in a conference room trying to...
Nice.
But here we go. Here is, wow, it's giving me a little bubble too.
Bubble.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty slick. So there you go. One thing you should know about Midjourney is it doesn't do text well at all. So you would need to Photoshop that. And that's that.
Nice. Awesome. Hey, Chris, thanks for hanging out with us for an hour. Can't wait to work with you. If you're game, live or virtual, I'll put this in there. I know many of you, Donna, I know you're coming. Several of you are here, but we're going to be doing a 2-day event in Las Vegas, but you can join us virtually if you wish. Butch Bradley, there's Chris. So the three of us going to be working together, walking you through writing some jokes. So just like today, you're going to leave with, thanks, Donna. Donna can't wait. You're going to leave with, yeah, and safe travel, Alan. You're going to leave with jokes, ideas that you can use. And remember to use Event 25. Those of you who are Stage Time members, use your discount code. You know what that is. As a Stage Time member, members get their privileges. For everyone else, if you're not a Stage Time member, just go to humorbootcamp.com or that link I just put in the chat. It's actually... Event 30 does not work. I just tried it and Regina's not in. So we're going to go with what I do know works, which is Event 25. Event 25. So join us live, virtual. You'll also get the recordings as well. I love that I'm going to learn new things and new ways that it's done. And Chris, you also talked about we're going to late night people's presentations.
Yeah, basically that's like, adding media, images like I just did is basically like a staple of late night. There's most modern late night there's something called a desk piece, which is that piece that the host does after they've done their monologue, and it usually has some kind of media associated with it, whether it's text or photos or whatever. So like an example of that is like Jimmy Fallon's thank you notes or what's another good top 10 list, things like that.
Perfect. And Chris, are you willing to share about on this? This is a recording, so if you're not comfortable talking about how you made Martha Stewart funny, that's okay.
Sure. Martha was booked on the Comedy Central roast of Justin Bieber. I was the head writer, and we were a little concerned at first that she might be a little too, because with a roast, you've really got to give yourself over to the process of the roast. If you're afraid of being mean or you're afraid of not really going all out, you'll probably end up being kind of mediocre. And I remember I was a little worried about Martha being a little too brand conscious. I didn't have to worry about that because she ended up being fantastic. But I did make the promise through the showrunner that if she did what we wrote for her, we would make her the funniest person on the roast. And I was pretty confident we were going to be able to do that because I knew we could write something really funny for her. And especially if we did it in her own voice, like she was just doing a really twisted version of what she normally does. So the setup to everything is, oh, it's just Martha Stewart talking about, DIY projects or cooking or whatever, but the punchline would be something really messed up or an insult that would be on a roast. And I think she was really a terrific sport in that the first hour she was there, she was the target of pretty much everybody who got up there, did jokes about why is Martha Stewart here and making fun of her and all that stuff. And I don't think people in the audience really had any expectation that she was going to be funny. So when she got up there and she was funny, she blew everybody away because it was not the expectation. I think that's the same for speakers, is no one's expecting you to be Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle or, whoever. So that if you can be funny and you can add humor to your presentations, it's going to land very well because the expectation is you're just there to speak.
Nice. Very cool. Well, Chris, look forward to working with you again. Join us for the Humor Bootcamp. Go to humorbootcamp.com, get 25% off. The price goes up soon. So right now it's the early bird special. If you're watching this replay, I don't know, it depends when you're watching it. So the sooner you watch it, the more you would save. But give us 2 days and we're going to help make you funnier for life. Alan, safe travel from France all the way to Vegas. Excited to have you here. Very funny man. Saw him deliver his speech when I was over in the UK a few months ago. And everyone else who's joining us, thank you. Shane says thank you. Darren and Chris. Sherry too. All right. So we'll see you in Vegas or online. Thanks for being a part of this 2 quick things to get laughs in your next speech. Any final thoughts, Chris?
No, that's it. I think, it's not, it's just something that is practice. And we'll obviously be talking about, how to navigate all the things that can go wrong during a speech. And we'll be talking about that at the seminar as well.
All right. See you at Humor Bootcamp.